Hello, friends. Today we have a very special guest, President and CEO of BK Investments. We're going to ask him multiple questions on investments and how can BK Investments help us to procure funding. Hello, Mr. Mani Nagappan. How are you, sir?
Fine. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you. Thank you. I've got many questions, but I'm going to ask very simple questions for our audience today, just to start with, right? First question, Mani. Talk to me about BK Investments.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, we are having like a group of investors and VCs and angels. We are around 2,500 plus 3,000 angels and venture capitalists. Through this people only, we are getting funding from multiple countries and everything. And also we have clients spread across all the countries. We have from Europe, US, Canada, and also India. So we work on a specific sectors. So we work on, like, for example, like health technologies, educational technologies, deep technologies, like agri-tech, so retail, e-commerce, all these things we work on. So whatever the sectors we are working on it, so we segregate this pitch decks, whatever we are getting it through our websites. So we have websites developed like VK Rise Investments. Through that, they can like post their pitch decks or anything. Our team of people will evaluate the pitch decks and then they contact them to move forward for getting investments.
So how many angels and how many venture capitalists have you got at this moment of time?
Yeah, so we have around 800 plus angel investors and then like around 2,200 like VCs, venture capitalists.
Wow, that's a humongous number. So how many people have we helped already, Mani?
Yeah, already we have helped around 200 companies globally in this period of 3 years. So, and then we are presently working with around 700 startups globally.
So what is your minimum amount and what is your maximum you've gone to up to?
Yeah, we have minimum amount. We have you've gone from around like 25 lakhs and even up to like 100 crores.
So what is bootstrapping, Mr. Mani?
Okay, so the bootstrapping is nothing but a startup company which is growing with an existing resources, whatever they have. So like, for example, the computer equipments and also the working capital, the small working capital, and also the funds from the friends and family. So, and also if they are getting some revenue from that customers also using that funds, if they are growing that company, that is called bootstrapping.
So anything from the friends and family is simply called as bootstrapping. Can I answer that?
Yes.
All right. So it's the initial level of funding, right,
yes.
Mr. Mani?
Yeah.
All right. So if I want to get some investments, right, or funding, how do I find investors, Mr. Mani, like yourself?
Okay, so like so there are a lot of ways to find an investor. One is to like local network events, whatever is happening in your city. And also like we can use the social media platforms like LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. So, and also like events like which is happening where the investors can invite all startups to pitch their idea. So there are some events happening in the city that also you can go and contribute your idea there. And also other thing is blogging, telling your story. Like there are a lot of platforms like your story, all these things. You can tell your story through blogging, blog commenting in the articles of the investors. And also,
so I have a very specific question here, Mr. Nagappan. How do I find BK Investments now? Where do you fit in?
Okay, so we are actually we act as a bridge between like multiple venture capitalists and angel investors globally. So we connect with all the investors globally through a platform like and also like startups can connect with us and get funding. So we act as a one-stop show to connect with investors.
Fantastic, thank you. So what are the different types of funding available, Mr. Mani? So what kind of funding do you generally suggest for investment purposes?
Okay, so like there are, if other than the bootstrapping, there are 5 types of fundings available in the industry. One is angel investment, another is crowdfunding, another is venture capitalists, another is incubators and accelerators. These are all the 4 funding available.
All right. What is BK investment? Basically is pitching pitching to the investors or pitching to the customers who look for funding?
Okay, so the VK investments, what we do is we segregate the investors based on different geographical location and the interest of the venture capitalists and the angel investors, and then we send a small investor proposal to them, and then once they are interested, so then we connect these investors to the entrepreneurs to moving forward with getting funding. So we have a team of.
Okay, so yeah, I have a quick question here. So are you talking about angel investors or crowdfunding or venture capitalists? Which one do you opt the most?
Okay, so we are majorly focusing on angel investment and venture capitalist.
Oh, okay. So who's an angel investor then? My question goes on like that.
Okay, so angel investors are nothing but investors who are high network people who have their own funds to invest in multiple startups, who have exited from other companies, who have got some funding from companies and then grow the company and exited from the companies. HNIs, you can call it as HNIs. So these are all people.
These are individual people then.
Individual people.
Yeah. Okay, those are individual people. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
So individual people who invest in companies from they invest up to $500K to up to $1 million in startups.
Okay, up to 7.5 crores Indian rupees.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So who are venture capitalists then?
Okay, so venture capitalists are group of people like investors starting a venture firm, and then these funds are coming from various sources, and then they act as a firm, right? They act as a private firm, and then they help the startup companies to grow in faster manner. Yeah, their fund level is very high, so they invest up to $50 to $100 million.
$50 to $100 million. Okay, fantastic. So VK Investments practically focuses on angel investors and then venture capitalists. Would that be a fair statement to say?
Yes.
Right now, Mr.
Yes.
Mani?
Yeah.
Okay. But there are also few other investors which you talked about, right? I mean, investor type, incubator, accelerator. Can you explain to us a little bit more on who's an incubator, who's an accelerator, and what is a crowdfunding as well? Different types, please.
Okay. So actually, incubators are nothing but it is institutional investors. We call as institutional investors who are contributing to the society for supporting the startups to grow in any country, right? They will give workspaces. They will give some smaller team for technology development, all these things. Okay, but we have to follow their rules, whatever they say, when we are incubated to a specific institutional organizations. So another is crowdfunding. So as crowdfunding is a group of people investing for one idea. For example, if I am looking for 2 crores of funding, each of them lot of investors can invest from 5 lakhs to 10 lakhs, right? And then they give the returns. The founders give a return on a fixed rate of around 18% or 20% in a period of around 2 to 3 years.
So who's an accelerator?
Accelerators are so they give help to the startups. So to for example, mentorship. For example, they will have a mentorship program. So they will assign some mentors. So they will give all the stages, what all things we have to do. So these are all things these people do.
All right. So how do I convince an investor, Mr. Mani? And then how does VK Investment help us to convince an investor? So what does VK Investment do as well?
Okay. So actually, convince an investor is basically it is their ROI perspective. First thing is they consider the ROI perspective. What is the growth of a company in a period of around 3 to 5 years? What is the return on investments a venture capitalists get? And also the domain each VCs are operating on. For example, each VC is operating on a specific domain. if they wanted to invest in that particular domain, they're ready to do it because they have already the thesis built for that specific companies, and then they are ready to invest it. So we have we help VJ investments. We help this segregate this specific VCs and angels who are specifically investing in these sectors, and then connecting with them so that more people, like more investors, will be able to connect and get funding.
What are the steps which are involved? Of course, you told me the steps involved. I would like to know what can VK investments do for me to convince an investor.
Okay, so basically the investor are expecting few documents which are required to before their meetings. For example, they are looking for an elevator pitch. They are looking for an financial models, valuation of a company, and also a little bit like a demo of an MVP product and the tractions whatever they have built. Right, with all this information, put it in a document. We take this information, and also we have our own chartered accountant. We help them to build it in a format so what the venture capitalists are expecting, and then we take this documents, all this, and then we present to the investors, so that so they have all the information whatever there to take to the next level. And then during the meetings or anything, we give convince the investors they are really doing good, and then because of the trust the market VK investments is having, which will help the entrepreneurs to take their business to the next level.
Awesome, thank you very much. I have just a few questions. So you talked about elevated pitch, you talked about financial projections, you talked about valuation report. So VK investments would help with each and every individual person to prepare all these documents. Would that be a fair statement again, Mr. Mani?
Yes, yeah, you will help on.
All right. And when we talk about financial projections itself, right? Do you have a model, built-in model, or how do you make financial projections which might be into the future?
Yeah, actually the financial projections is a model which is available for in market for specifically for venture capitalists. So our chartered accountant used this model to build this financial model for this the companies, right? So it will contain all the things like cost structure, the forecasting, and then the profit and loss in the year 1, year 2, everything. They forecast and put it in a format. So so it is already available, but it is prepared by our own chartered accountant team, which help these entrepreneurs.
All right, talk to me about an entry and exit criteria for an angel investor or a venture capitalist, Mr. Mani.
Okay, so on paper, so there will be a negotiation which will be happening between VCs and the founders during the signing of a term sheet. So it may be VCs, they ask for 5 to 6 years exit, and also for angels they ask for 3 years exit, right? And also VCs, they ask board seats. But VK investments, they help in negotiation part during the timesheet signing, right? So for example, if they're asking for 4 years or 5 years, the founders, we will be helping in negotiation part also between the both of the parties.
What kind of negotiations do you generally do, Mr. Nagappan?
Yeah, basically for example, based on the term sheet signing, right? So if they want to convert and after 2 years, if they want to convert into equity, debt into an equity, right? So and also so these are all which can happen in the future based on the growth of the company. So which are all will help during our term sheet signing.
Okay, all right, fantastic. So let's say I am a rich person and I don't need any kind of investments. Would you still advise me to go for an angel investor or a venture capitalist? If so, why?
Yes. So basically these angel investors and venture capitalists, they come with a full knowledge because they have already run as companies successfully. The knowledge which is coming in along with the funds, which will definitely help the companies to grow faster. That is what I always say like it is better to go through an advice, even though if you have money, go through some mentors or like a VCs to grow the company.
So would you still prefer an angel or a venture capitalist? Which one would you prefer the most?
I prefer VC. Yeah.
You prefer VCs. Talk to me about equity dilution as well.
Okay, so equity dilution is basically diluting a company based on a valuation of the company. Okay, for example, if the valuation of the company is around 20 CR, like for example, if I want to dilute like a 10% of that company, so they have to fund the companies around 2 CR, right? So this is how like they dilute the companies. So it depends upon the valuation of the company. Which there is also a negotiation will happening between the like investors and the founders during the final term sheets in the valuation part, and then they come to a term and then they fund the company.
So does the equity dilution generally happens during the start or the end or the middle, or how does VK investments actually decide when the equity dilution should happen?
Yeah, the so the equity dilution will happen before the funding comes to the account, right? So it is after all the terms and everything are discussed and the term sheet is signed, right? That is the time they dilute the companies. And then once during the fund transfers, the dilution will be transferred to the shareholders or the investors.
So VK investments would handhold with the person who's expecting all the funding, and they would travel with the person as well, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
All right. So talk to me about MVP too, because that's a very important concept. Minimum viable product. Please explain that what it is to us.
Yeah. So MVP is nothing but like a minimum viable product. It may be for any industry. For example, it may be for a retail, it may be for an IT or anything. A functional product or a thing like which can be like replicated uh, multiple places or multiple things. If it is a retail, if we are running in a separate places or anything in one place, if you want to replicate the store into multiple location, it is possible if you have all the details for a company. So that is applicable for even a product. So like to acquire some basic clients and validate the clients to before we go into the bigger market. So this is called as MVP.
Fantastic. So we talked about venture capitalists, we talked about angel investors, but there are also traditional banks, right? And do you also help funding for from traditional banks as well? If so, what kind of help do you generally provide?
Okay, so we are actually as a VK investment as a team, we are not involving in like bank institutions. So like we involve only with private investors and venture
Why
capital.
not banks? Why not banks?
Okay, so banks they ask a lot of records, right? For example, they should have a very good, very big turnover of the companies, and then they should have maintained and the credit is to be like should be good for them. So these are all the people they cannot get funding through the banking institutions. So that is why this is better for all the entrepreneurs to grow faster with even in idea level, seed level, like pre-seed levels, and also like so like all the stages, whatever stages you wanted, you can approach these investors and get funding if they are ready to invest with higher return on investment.
What is the difference between debt and equity financing, right? Because we talked about debt and equity a lot. I would still want to have a fairly good understanding about that.
Okay, so basically like debt financing is basically financing. For example, they loan a company based on an assets whatever is available in the company, right? For example, if the company is valuated around 100 crores or anything, so and then they give us a debt financing, and then which whatever the amount is like given as a loan, which has to be given along with a fixed interest or returns, okay, for a period of 2 to 3 years. So there is no like involvement in any like in the company. They don't have any ownership of the company when we are going for a debt financing. Okay, it is a risk free, but you get loans for a higher returns. For an equity-based companies, you have to give ownership to the investors and then get money from them. Once the companies grow to a very large level, when the valuation increases to like 5 times or 6 times, if they are ready to exit from the companies, they can exit from the companies with that valuation, so they get money from the company.
So between these two, which one is better? And what do VK investments suggest the people who are looking for funding?
Okay, I think if on the very early stage, for example, when you have not built your MVP product, or you are in building the traction of a company for 2 years, right? 1 to 1.5 years to 2 years, it is better to go for a debt funding. So where you are going to invest only a small amount of money. But when you go for an higher growth, for example, when you wanted to capture a bigger market, when you want to capture a market of a whole like European country or whole US or anything, that time it is better to go for a venture capitalists and angels, where they help pump the money to reach a lot of markets and lot of customers.
All right. Thanks a lot, Mani, for answering all our questions. It was a pleasure. And we have few more questions which we'll talk about in the next video.
Okay, thank you very much for yours.